let's have a look at the vocabulary from this first reading. Somebody tell me what the Brundtland Commission was. No, it was not. It was an international commission. It was a United Nations Commission. And you'll read that the Brundtland Commission was one of the first sort of international organizations to make suggestions about how economic development should occur, and basically what they're saying was they put into place this idea of sustainability back in, what year was it? Anybody? 87. Good. All right.
Study questions right there.
Oh, wow. Okay, good. You're reading through it. So the idea there is that they incorporated the idea of sustainability. Right? So sustainability, how would you define sustainability? That should be number 2. Well, okay, just sustainability. I had that marked earlier in the textbook. It's a basic idea. It comes out of conservation, but the idea is that an activity like farming, manufacturing, would be able to continue into the future unimpeded by lack of resources, something like that. Sustainable agriculture is probably the most obvious, familiar idea, and that is that you're not. The system that you use should also conserve resources. That system should be able to be retained into the future. Maybe that's through a lot of traditional forms of agriculture are usually considered sustainable into the future. Now, because we're talking about the future, we have no real ability to verify whether or not it's actually sustainable, right? I mean, we can kind of guess. So whether or not something is sustainable is usually not the focus of conversation. What is the focus of conversation is the sort of the approach or the methods that we would assume would be sustainable. Make sense? Okay. Well, there are areas of where people have practiced traditional forms of farming, where they have maybe 3 or 5 different rotations, fallow periods, depending on the location and the types of crops are grown. Maybe fertilization using manure or something like that. A manure, either a green manure, which is like a crop like buckwheat, or a legume of some sort that fixes nitrogen back into the soil, or it could be a manure as in the form that we usually think of as from cattle pasture. And that manure usually has to be composted so that it doesn't spread seeds into your fields. Anyway, basically you're adding nitrogen back to the soil, you're adding some nutrients, and in the case of manure, you're adding organic material as well. So the idea there is that agriculture, all farming tends to change the soil. It draws from the soil, so it sort of taxes the soil of its nutrients. But if you have a system that is going to replace those nutrients, then you've got something good going, right? We talked about some resources, right? And I harped along about how, I introduced this term, perpetual resources, which are those things that, as far as human beings are concerned, don't change, like the solar radiation, tides, winds. Anything else? We could probably count geothermal, but it doesn't really matter. So perpetual resources are things that we're just we're tapping energy, we're tapping into possibility of generating electricity with it. And then we have renewable and non-renewable, which you're obviously familiar with. But I made a point that which of the three are the ones that we really have to be careful with so as not to completely deplete. Which of the three resource types is by definition finite? Well, that would be finite would be non-renewable, right? Coal, petroleum, gas, whatever. And then, of course, the perpetual is truly infinite. This is the important question. Which of these three resource types is most susceptible to actual depletion? Renewable. Okay, that's the important one. So the question would be, why would non-renewable resources not be depleted typically? Why would they typically not be entirely depleted?
Technologies.
Yeah, changes in technology that come about because of changes in price. As long as you have a price-based economy, right? As long as the price of things, of resources, are reflecting the demand in some way, as long as the price is affecting demand, then you can probably guess that those resources won't be entirely depleted. If the price is, for some strange reason, lower than what the demand price would require, then you've got a problem, right? But for the most part, price is going to create a barrier to the access to those resources before they're depleted. Okay, good. You all are doing great. Thank you. Here's an example. Yeah. This is. Remember, I was talking about this gold mine in Alaska. This is some pictures from it. And it's real foggy and cloudy there all the time. But this was an old gold mine, and the point of that was that even though there's still gold in this mountain, we know that for sure, it's just not economically feasible to try to extract that gold for a couple of reasons. The kind of combination. The technology that we have would be very, very expensive to extract what little gold there is, and there are other sources. So those other sources keep the price too low to make it feasible to go in and do this. Okay. Now, research and development, of course, will happen, and often research and development takes place when the price has risen. Right. So it makes more sense to spend money on how to figure out the problem and get and exploit the resource.